everyone, Monet here. We left off last week's video with quite the cliffhanger. After learning that villains had broken into USJ, Gentle and Labrava quickly rushed to Deku's aid, saving the quirk nerd from being killed by Nomu. Aizawa would also be rescued from the grisly fate he suffered in the anime. The tea-drinking vigilante faced off against the League, barely holding his own. Just as Nomu went to kill off Gentle, Labrava would use her quirk on him, allowing the vigilante to grapple with the brute. Nomu, however, was still stronger, and despite Aizawa trying to help, the villains would still close in to kill Gentle. Luckily for our vigilante, All Might would arrive on the battlefield just in time. With that out of the way, let's continue our story. What If Gentle Turned Good, Part 4. The story starts now. Gentle would be relieved that All Might had arrived, though he knew the fight wasn't over yet. The vigilante looked over towards where Shigaraki was, seeing Deku standing in front of the villain in a defensive stance. Gentle would get up, his body aching all over, and stand in front of his protege.
I sincerely thank you, young man, but I can take it from here. You need to move to safety.
Izuku wouldn't argue with his teacher, retreating a few meters and watching from afar. Truth is, his body hurt all over. Deku had used 5% so he could reach Gentle before Shigaraki did, and it really did a number on him. Right now, it hurt just to move, let alone fight, but he was willing to fight if it meant helping out Gentle or All Might. Speaking of which, Gentle would relay the information he had at the moment.
Might, the big fellow you are currently staring down has speed and power comparable to your own. He may have a power-enhancing quirk. And this uncouth fellow in front of me seems to be the leader here, though he relies heavily on his followers.
All Might would nod, before attempting to arrest Nomu like he did in the anime. Though this time, he's a bit preoccupied. See, All Might is glad to see that Gentle came to the rescue and acted like a real hero, though he also realizes that Gentle just broke several laws. None of the students know, but it's likely the other heroes do, and once Shigaraki is dealt with, Gentle will be arrested as well. All Might knows he should focus on the real villains here, but he can't help but worry about the vigilante. Likewise, Gentle would charge Shigaraki, keeping the villain from gloating about his many quirks. The vigilante was worried about All Might, though knew he was a pro and could handle himself. By this point, Lover Mode had worn off, leaving Gentle severely depowered. Though his body was worn out, his spirit pushed him to move quicker than the villain he was facing. Shigaraki would go to grab Gentle's face and arm, only for the vigilante to dodge and uppercut the villain. This would cause the hand on top of Shigaraki's face to fly off, making the villain even more frustrated. Before he could recover the hand, Gentle would bounce forward, landing a punch on the villain's face again. Shigaraki would stumble backwards, holding his face with both hands and hyperventilating. Gentle watched the villain, out of breath and in pain from moving so much after his battle with Nomu. How was this villain still standing? He had put his all into that last punch.
You just keep getting in my way. Why won't you just buzz off and let me kill All Might?
Shigaraki would lunge at Gentle, both hands outstretched. Gentle would go to dodge the attack, but a sharp pain in his leg caused him to hesitate. This small second of hesitation would allow Shigaraki to catch the vigilante by the collar.
You just need to disappear.
The villain put his hand to the vigilante's chest, his clothes quickly beginning to disintegrate. Gentle would punch his opponent again, but the villain held on tight, desperately trying to kill the vigilante. Gentle began to feel a stinging sensation in his chest as his skin began to crack and the muscle underneath was exposed. This caused Gentle to freak out and begin to pound on Shigaraki, throwing punch after punch at the villain. Finally, Shigaraki's grip would loosen before letting go and falling to the floor. The villain was bruised and bloody, but not entirely knocked out yet. Gentle was left standing over him, chest partially decayed, but not enough to be lethal.
That really hurts. I hate you. Nomu.
Shigaraki groaned, desperately trying to rely on his monster, but no help arrived. All Might, with the help of Todoroki's ice, had immobilized the brute. Nomu tried to wriggle around to aid its master, but ultimately it was trapped.
Kurogiri, do something,
Shigaraki said, looking towards his loyal compatriot for help. But with Bakugo threatening him and his quirk being erased, there was nothing the purple mist monster could do. Shigaraki had lost? Utterly and completely lost to these heroes at USJ? And it was all because of this one hero who wasn't supposed to be here. It was all because of this gentle guy. Shigaraki looked up at this hero, eyes full of hatred and contempt. This hero was solely responsible for his loss and needed to pay. Gentle was watching the villain before him, feeling quite pained and worn out. He was happy he had defeated the villain, but if this was how tough hero work was, he would need to reconsider this line of work. The vigilante turned to look at his protege and Labrava, the people he worked so hard to protect, but instead of seeing smiles, he saw worry on their faces. See, in the split second he had taken his eyes off of Shigaraki, the villain took the opportunity to jump and decay him.
If I can't kill All Might, I'll just kill you!
The bloodied Shigaraki went to put his hands on Gentle, only for both of them to be repelled. The sound of bullets being fired rang out as holes were put in Shigaraki's hands, before 2 more were put in his legs. Gentle would turn around, seeing the wounded Shigaraki falling backwards. The pro heroes had arrived on the scene, though this time Ida wasn't with them, since they had rushed over much faster. Gentle watched on as the heroes finished off the remaining villains, with Cementos coming over to seal off Nomu and the others until the police arrived. And with that, the League of Villains were officially defeated. Gentle would be tackled by Powerloader and swiftly apprehended, with the Brava being mistaken for a student at first, though once Nomu was covered in cement, All Might would come to Gentle's defense, telling Powerloader that there was no need to apprehend him. The pro hero would give All Might a sideways look before letting go of the vigilante. And for the next few minutes, Gentle would watch on as the pros finished off whatever villains may be left and rescued the remaining students. All Might would escort Gentle and Labrava outside, telling Nezu that the two were not to be arrested yet and that they weren't with the League. Nezu, being the smart bear mouse thing he is, would sort of understand the situation, being somewhat disappointed in All Might, but grateful that the vigilante had intervened and saved some of the students from being harmed. This was still a pretty controversial thing though, so Nezu would tell the trio that they would get a proper scolding later on. Shigaraki, Kurogiri, and Nomu would all be escorted into high-security vans and driven off to Tartarus, with Shigaraki being silent the whole time, a sullen expression on his face. As soon as Nezu had left, Labrava would hug the crap out of Gentle, before hitting him softly for making her so worried. "You had me so worried, you butt! How could you go out there and fight that giant villain by yourself, you dummy?" Gentle would chuckle to himself, being quite relieved that Labrava was so worried about him, her tiny punches reminding him that his body was still achy.
Ow, 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 okay. I won't rush into battle without you by my side again, I promise, Brava!
Okay, good. You better keep that promise, but you're still a dummy. Meanwhile, All Might and Izuku were all too happy to see their friend having a good time. The elevated mood would only last for a little longer though, since police quickly began to take statements as to what happened. This meant Gentle would have to basically confess to his crimes on paper. Not a great look for him. Once the statements were done, the police would take Gentle and Labrava into custody, with the two putting up zero resistance. All Might had already disappeared due to his timer, yet Izuku was still there, and he quickly came to Gentle's defense.
Hey, you guys, you can't just arrest him. He saved my life. He saved Aizawa's life.
Gentle would look towards his protege, a weak smile on his face.
Young man, it's okay. Labrava and I knew this would happen, and we completely accepted it. We happily accept imprisonment over you being hurt. Please continue to work hard and become a strong hero. We'll be fine. Worry not, for we shall be out in no time, I promise." "You promise, Gentle?" "I promise, young man. Nobody would hold such a heroic duo in prison for long."
Izuku would nod, with Gentle and Labrava being put into a cop car and transported off. With that, the USJ arc would conclude as normal, at least for the school and its students. Gentle and Labrava would be interrogated by the police like they did in their original arc, though this time they were facing much more serious charges. Instead of just trespassing, the two would have breaking and entering charges since they used force to break into the USJ facility. They would also be charged for using their quirks in public as well as against people. That said, the police chief would visit in person. He would say these were very serious charges, but in every single report, Gentle was said to have saved the lives of at least 3 students and hadn't done any permanent damage to the villains he fought. What the chief was saying was he could let the duo go, as long as they never legally used their quirks again and accepted that their defeats wouldn't be known by the public. So basically, they got the same deal Izuku, Ida, and Todoroki got after the Stain arc. Gentle would hate to lose the publicity. It was what he had wanted this entire time. Labrava, likewise, knew that Gentle was struggling to make a decision here, knowing he still wanted the fame above all else.
"You say that in all the statements I was regarded as a hero? But the public will never get to know that."
The police chief would nod, saying if the public were to know, he would have to be arrested. Gentle would clench his fists before sighing heavily.
"Well, who needs the fame, really?"
Gentle smiled softly, looking down at his partner.
"Honestly, I'm already a hero for 2 very important people, and as long as everybody is safe, that is all that matters."
The police chief would agree with this sentiment, going to file the paperwork and release the 2 vigilantes. While this was going on, All Might would be hounded by Nezu. The principal would question Might as to who these vigilantes were and how they knew about USJ and young Midoriya. This would lead to All Might spilling the beans to his boss, making the polar bear mouse sigh in slight disappointment. The principal would say it was irresponsible for All Might to train those 2 without giving them a proper way to become heroes. Before All Might could respond, though, the mouse would admit that it'd be a shame for those 2 to not become heroes before putting down a letter onto the table. All Might looked at the letter, recognizing it was a letter of recommendation to the Hero Public Safety Commission. Wait, did this mean? Nezu would nod before telling All Might that he had found 2 very special people. 2 who had the potential to become great pro-heroes. But All Might would need 2 more letters before Gentle would be considered to take a provisional license exam, and even then he could be rejected from the program for any number of reasons. All Might understood, but he knew those 2 would get their chance to become heroes, and they would pass with flying colors. A couple days later, All Might would deliver the news to Gentle and Labrava, telling them that they could indeed become heroes. All Might had written a letter himself, and Aizawa was considering writing one as well, though there was a catch. 3 weeks would go by, with Gentle recovering from his fight with Nomu and doing light workouts with Labrava. While she still had some jealousy towards Izuku, Gentle began to include her in his workouts more and more, and also started studying heroes with her. With this extra time spent together, Labrava began to feel more and more comfortable with how things were. While she knew there was no way she could become as strong as Gentle, that didn't matter as much anymore. She knew he would always make time to be by her side, and that she would be the brains behind his operations, just as she always had been. It wasn't a perfect setup yet, but things were slowly getting better for Brava. The USJ battle did affect Gentle negatively for a bit, giving him nightmares and making him feel weak. But everyone supported the vigilante and helped him to realize he had the help of all his friends around him. Once fully recovered, Gentle would begin to push himself harder than before, trying to become as strong as All Might and that Nomu villain. If Might hadn't intervened, Gentle and Brava would have been mincemeat, and he couldn't have that happen. Gentle would become strong enough to protect everyone around him, and to support others if they weren't strong enough to do so yet. This was the birth of the noble hero, Gentle. During these 3 weeks, Aizawa had told All Might that he wanted to meet Gentle and Labrava, passing a message to the vigilantes. On the day of the sports festival, the two would meet Aizawa on school grounds. He had a test that they would need to pass before he wrote their letter. This message came about a week before the sports festival, and Gentle happily accepted this test he would have to take. The vigilante was sort of disappointed that he couldn't watch the sports festival, though he could always just watch it on YouTube later. Meanwhile, Labrava was excited to meet Aizawa. Finally, she could meet someone who used support items. Maybe he could even teach her how to use that scarf thing or some other support item. On the other hand, she was kinda nervous about what kind of test he would make them take. On the day of the festival, Gentle, Labrava, and Izuku would all meet early in the morning, having bagels and tea before their respective tests. The vigilante looked at his partners, thinking over the events of the last 2 or so months. It was crazy, but in only that small amount of time, everyone had grown so much. Not to mention, Gentle and Labrava had been trained by All Might and fought villains, all before getting the opportunity to become licensed heroes. And then there was the fact that All Might said as soon as they got their provisional licenses, they could become his official sidekicks. All of this good fortune in such a small time span, it was unbelievable. Gentle was truly grateful that he had met Deku the day of the sludge villain attack. Deku was like Gentle's good luck charm, one that improved both his and Labrava's lives. After breakfast, the three would go their separate ways, wishing each other luck. Izuku would do pretty well at the sports festival. It'd be an absolute piece of cake. I mean, he destroyed it when he wasn't using his quirk, so with full cowling, it'd be too easy. He would end up overtaking Bakugo during the minefield portion of the race. The quirk nerd would use his unique bouncing style to bounce around the mines, their explosions only pushing him further with each jump. Honestly, this course was made for Izuku at this point. The cavalry battle would go down about the same as in canon, up until Ida used his Recipro Burst. In the anime, this caused Todoroki to be able to grab Izuku's headband due to his high speeds. This time is different though, since Izuku is far faster and would be able to react to Todoroki. What does this mean? Well, nothing really, other than the fact that Todoroki and Bakugo are both upset that Izuku beat them. Meanwhile, Gentle and Labrava would be meeting up with Aizawa, the hero having a broken arm, but still able to use his binding cloth effectively. The hero had met the vigilantes at the sports festival, but had since led them to the sports field, the same spot he took Class 1A to test their quirks. Aizawa would turn around and glare at the two.
I brought you here to tell you a few things. Thank you for helping out at USJ, but from what I saw, you two don't deserve to be heroes.
Dun dun dun. Gentle couldn't believe this. Just what was Aizawa going on about? They had put themselves in danger, holding off the league and buying time for the students and heroes alike. Without them, who knows what would have happened? How could he say that they didn't deserve to be heroes? Even Labrava was shocked. The hero she looked up to was now saying they couldn't be heroes? How was that fair? Before Gentle could say anything, Aizawa spoke once more.
You two were reckless. You could have gotten people hurt, or gotten hurt yourselves. You just rushed in and put your lives at stake without knowing a single thing about the enemy. That said, without you, things may have been much worse. You two were taught the basics, I assume, but I'm taking time out of my schedule to teach you more about how to be a hero. So come on, show me everything All Might taught you to.
Aizawa's eyes glowed red and his scarf unwound. Several miles away, somewhere deep within a secretive lab, sat All for One, tubes and syringes all stuck in him. Behind him was a large tube of water, with the doctor scurrying around it. Sir, I have no idea why you want to release him. We should have just used the Nomu to rescue Shigaraki. All for One would smile, laying back in his throne.
No, he needs to learn that his actions have consequences. We'll end up rescuing him, but not now. We'll let him stew for another month or so.
The doctor sighed and shook his head as he connected some wires and tubes to a tank of water. Well, still, why do we need this guy? He's sickly, can barely even use his own quirk, let alone yours. All for One would stand up and walk towards the tube, its contents unclear due to the darkness within it. Not that the villain could see anyways.
Oh, but we need him. Shigaraki may be the ultimate goal, but one must always have plans to fall back on. Besides, we cannot act by ourselves, lest we be exposed. No, he's perfect for what I have in mind.
All for One would grab his helmet and put it on just as the tube lit up. The doctor clapped and put a hand on the tube. It's up and running. He'll be ready in a few days' time. All for One would look into the tube, using his infrared vision quirk to look over the man inside. There, floating in the greenish water, was a man who looked somewhat like Shigaraki, skinny, pale, with white hair.
Yes, you'll be of great use to us. You will take over the League of Villains and bring it back into the spotlight. You'll become the mastermind behind it all, the new All for One to the public. All Might is going to go crazy over you. 9.
But that is where we will be leaving it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I ask that you gently smash that like button, or maybe even gently repel the subscription button if you haven't already. Have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye!